A resource-based economy is based on pure logic. If you go on a mountain expedition, you calculate how much food you have, how many people there are, and how long the trip will be. You then arrive at a decision about the resources you need for the expedition. If you send a spacecraft to the moon, you will need to analyse the situation to find out what resources are necessary for your expedition. You will take into account the food, the number of people going on this expedition, and the fuel for such a journey. If you, like a species, want to populate another planet, first, you analyse what resources are available and how many people such a planet can sustain. Well, it's the exact same thing with planet Earth, only that here the monetary system does not take into account the planetary resources. Luckily for us, there is already a plan to organise our world. It is called the Venus Project. A nation without a vision of what the future can be is bound to repeat past errors over and over again. This brief video will outline a vision designed to avoid making the same mistakes, a vision of efficiency, sustainability, and intelligent planning, a vision to lead us into a marvellous new world of unlimited human potential. This vision could be a showcase of what the world can be in our cybernated age. Science and technology could be used for human betterment and the restoration and protection of the environment, serving as an example of the intelligent application of a systems approach. While some people advocate the restoration of existing worn-out cities, this effort falls short of the potential modern technology offers. Repairing current cities results in higher costs of operation and maintenance. It is actually less expensive in the long run to build newer cities from the ground up than to restore and maintain old ones. A total city system approach requires overall planning to attain the highest standard of living for all their city's occupants. The circular arrangement efficiently permits the most sophisticated use of available resources and construction techniques with a minimum expenditure of energy. The most advanced amenities that modern science and technology can provide could be made available to everyone. The city could be a help and learning centre where people from all over the world visit and hopefully emulate this design approach in other parts of the world. Design considerations for this new city include its assembly, the reduction of maintenance, efficient transportation, and its simplicity and durability. This would include the flexibility to permit ongoing and later changes. The city would function as an evolving, integrated organism rather than a static structure. This systems approach envisions assembling entire cities by standardized basic structural elements, which are prefabricated in automated plants and assembled on site. Many of these buildings would be comprised of standard units that can be arranged to meet many different requirements. This approach means that this city can be extremely cost efficient because only one sector needs to be designed, which can be duplicated repeatedly for the completion of an entire city. The outer perimeter would be part of the recreation area with golf courses, hiking and biking trails and opportunities for water sports. Inside this area, a waterway surrounds an agricultural belt with indoor and outdoor agriculture. Continuing into the city centre, 8 green sectors provide clean, renewable resources of energy using wind, solar, and heat concentrators. Waste recycling and other services are located beneath the city. The plan utilises the best of clean technology and harmony with the surrounding environment. The residential district features beautiful landscaping with lakes and winding streams. A wide range of creative, innovative apartment buildings and individual, unique homes would provide many options for the occupants. New and innovative methods of vast mass construction for housing and building systems would inject composed materials into a mould and then extrude the form upward. In some cases, multiple city apartments can be produced as continuous extrusions, which are then separated into individual units. Cranes transport the prefabricated dwellings to site locations. They are then lifted and inserted into a support structure. The apartments are lightweight and high strength. All of these dwellings are designed as self-contained residences. The outer surface of these efficient structures serve as photovoltaic generators, converting solar radiation directly into electricity for heating, cooling, and other needs. The thermocouple effect would also be used for generating electricity. The wide range of individual homes are prefabricated and relatively maintenance-free, fire-resistant and impervious to weather. With this type of construction, there will be little or no damage from floods, earthquakes, or hurricanes. Their thin shell construction can be mass-produced efficiently and economically. New energy-efficient systems can be installed to supply enough power to operate the entire household. Adjacent to the residential district, there are planning, science and research centres. 8 domes surrounding the central dome house art, music, exhibition, entertainment and conference centres. Lovely parks, lakes, streams and waterfalls are located throughout the entire city. The central dome, or theme centre, contains schools, healthcare, distribution centre, communications networking and childcare. It is also the core for most transportation services, which move people by transfers horizontally, vertically and radially anywhere in the city. This minimises the need for automobile transportation, except for emergency vehicles. Transportation between cities would be by monorails. The central dome would eventually house a cybernated complex, which serves as the brain and nervous system of the entire city. It projects a 3D virtual image of Earth using satellite communication systems which display information on weather, agriculture, transportation, and the operation of the whole city. This cybernated system would use environmental sensors to help maintain a balanced load economy, which avoids surplus and shortages. For example, in the agricultural belt, electronic probes monitoring and maintaining the soil conditions, water table, nutrients, and more. This method of electronic feedback can be applied to the entire city complex. With computers now able to process millions of bits of information per second, they are vital for arriving at correct decisions for the management of these innovative cities. Some of these cities may be total enclosure systems, which are self-efficient. These massive structures would contain residences, parks, recreation, entertainment, healthcare, educational facilities, and more. Everything built in these cities would be as near to a self-contained system as conditions allow. In this total enclosure arrangement, the skyscraper assures that more land is available for parks and wilderness preserves, while at the same time eliminating urban sprawl. Wherever possible, geothermal energy can be harnessed. Geothermal power offers the possibility of an abundant source of clean energy. This source alone can provide enough energy for the next 1,000 years. Regional transportation systems would include a network of waterways and canals. These bodies of water could minimize the threat of floods and droughts by diverting floodwaters to storage basins. In addition, these canals could supply water for irrigation, fish farms, and recreation. The canals can also be used for desalination using a method of evaporative condensation. A network of tunnels could facilitate transportation of passengers and freight across the Sahara Desert to all the Earth's regions, free of the effects of sandstorms. These tunnels would be located 30 to 40 feet below the desert surface, with ventilators every 1,000 meters. Water could be pumped from below the surface of the Sahara and transported to all the Earth's regions. In some instances, ships could serve as floating automated plants, capable of processing raw materials into finished products while en route to their destinations. Huge ships and submarines with many removable and interchangeable compartments would carry freight across the oceans. Rather than separated containers, an entire freight section can be automatically disengaged at the port. Bridge designs would be greatly simplified, and bridges can be made corrosion resistant. They would be prefabricated and transported to the site by twin-hulled catamarans. On some bridges, trains could be suspended beneath traffic lines. Colonization of the ocean is one of the last frontiers remaining on Earth. Prodigious oceanic city communities would evolve as artificial islands, floating structures, undersea observatories, and more. These large marine structures are designed to explore the relatively untapped riches of the oceans and provide improved mariculture, freshwater production, energy, and mining. This could offset land-based shortages. They could also provide almost unlimited riches in pharmaceuticals, chemicals, fertilizers, minerals, oil, and natural gas. Ocean cities would be resistant to earthquakes and greatly relieve land-based population pressures. The population would vary from several hundred to many thousand. Underwater oceanic viewing and research facilities provide expansive panoramic observations of the undersea world in its natural habitat without disturbing the ocean environment. Unsinkable floating sea domes would attract those who prefer unique offshore or island living. In the event of inclement weather, they could easily be towed ashore, mounted and anchored to elevated support structures. Mariculture and sea farming systems are used to cultivate and raise fish and other forms of marine life to help meet nutritional needs. These marine enclosures are designed as non-contaminating integral parts of the ocean environment. A true World's Fair of the future would emphasize the contributions made by all nations toward advancing humanity. Although this fair would provide entertainment, its main function is the deeper understanding of the world we live in and the people who inhabit it. The architectural structures themselves would be jewels of future possibilities, with a wide variety of exhibition buildings. Many of the displays will depict not what the future will be, but what it can be if we use science and technology with human and environmental concerns. It could be a vivid future showcase of human potential. Videos, three-dimensional displays, and full-size diagrams will depict the fabulous advantages for all nations when working together to preserve the greatest gift we have, the resources and beauty of our planet. In a final analysis, we are one people and share one planet. Jacques Fresco is the one who arrived at such a solution through careful study of human behaviour and the technology behind creating a global resource-based economy. The solutions he has presented for more than 30 years, maglev trains, self-erecting buildings, self-sustaining houses, still haven't been widely adopted due to the monetary system's constraints.
My guest is an extraordinary Miamian, Dr. Jacques Fresco. I could go through all the things that Dr. Fresco has done. He's a social engineer, industrial engineer, designer, inventor, consultant, was a consultant for Rotorcraft Helicopter, director of Scientific Research Laboratories, Los Angeles, designed and copyrighted various items, ranging from drafting instruments to X-ray units. Has had works published in the Architectural Record, Popular Mechanics, Saturday Review, and has been a technical and psychological consultant to the motion picture industry, member of the Air Force Design Development Unit at Wright Field, developed the electrostatic anti-icing systems, designed prefabricated aluminum houses. What does it say in your driver's license? What is the occupation?
Industrial designer.
Jacques, you...
Social engineer.
Does it bug you that people, when they talk about Jacques Fresco in Miami, say that he's someone who's too far ahead of his time? His thinking is, we're not ready for advanced kind of thinking. No, does it bug you?
I imagine every creative person in every field encounters that sort of problem. No, it doesn't. I can't afford it. There's too many things that are important.
What do you think of when you contemplate the future? For Jacques Fresco, this is what it looks like. A future where technology is harnessed for all and money has no relevance.
So you think you know what the future will look like?
Few people do, but once that Florida man, a very brilliant man, does, because he's designing it. A place where there will be no food shortages, no fear of hurricanes, and no war. It's called the Venus Project.
Extraordinary 93-year-old thinker who has created a strategy to build a new, unified, symbiotic world in harmony with nature. This project intends to achieve nothing less than the unification of the human race. It includes the design of new cities, the abolition of money, a new paradigm for living. It is called the Venus Project.
He has been labeled as a genius, a prophet, a visionary, and sometimes as an eccentric and dismissed as an utopian dreamer. But in the end, no matter what they say, he's Jacques Fresco, the creator and the mind behind the Venus Project, a monumental work of several fields of knowledge that unify the concept of a new future for the human civilization. Fresco's entire life is perhaps the definition of a second chance, a new opportunity for social progress in harmony with our planet and technology.
Born on March 3rd, 1916, Jacques Fresco has been called many things. Designer, architect, inventor, author, and futurist. His sensibilities stem from a first-hand experience of the Great Depression, a detailed understanding of the effects of a scarcity-based economy and the conflicts it produces. Primarily self-taught, Jacques advocates for a society that pursues science and technology as a means of continually educating itself, believing that such a society neither wants nor needs to be controlled. Proclaimed a visionary, Jacques offers bold and complete reformation of the world's social constructs to promise a brighter tomorrow, if we can unite as humans in its pursuit today. Jacques Fresco represents not only the sincerest belief of artists and designers to effect positive change in a society, but a pure conviction, if not responsibility, to absolve failing systems. In a 1974 interview with Larry King, Jacques Fresco can best be quoted with the following: "There are no Negro problems or Polish problems, or Jewish problems or Greek problems or women's problems. There are only human problems." Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce Jacques Fresco.
What is a resource-based economy? I'm sure you've all heard about it, but a resource-based economy is entirely different than anything that has ever existed in the past. Most decisions were made by kings, politicians, statesmen, but nothing based upon resources. To better understand the meaning of a resource-based economy, picture an island somewhere in the South Pacific, and you want to know, you really want to know, how many people can that island support, and to what degree can the extravagance of the island be maintained. First, you have to know how much wood there is, how much water, how much arable land. Once you do a survey of the resources of that island, that can best be the method for determining how many people it will support. If the materials do not exist, you can only design a culture based upon the materials that do exist. You can only grow food based upon the arable land area and the water surrounding the island, the fish, crustaceans, all the other things. And if you have an agronomist on your island, or a series of them, they can advise you as what is best to grow in that tropical region. So you really need technical competence in order to arrive at decisions that make sense. You cannot arrive at decisions that make sense by consensus, by asking people what they want. You have to find out what the island has to offer, and that's what you can determine the future by. All other systems will fail. The decisions are not made by the majority of people, they're made by the majority of people that have technical competence, that have information in the areas you wish to excel in, and methods of scientific scales of performance. If you have 1 million sincere people that have no technical competence, I can assure you nothing can be accomplished. So you have to ask the questions, can we build a society of sustainability? If you have no information as to the availability of resources, you cannot undertake such a project. Suppose you have a shortage of resources. That's the function of research labs, to make alternative materials that will substitute for lack of materials. Technicians do not tell you what to do or how to live. They merely carry out the function of designing elevators, transportation units, bridges, housing systems. They do not tell people what to do, what to think, or how to live. That's the mistake that most people make. They think that a resource-based economy has technicians that also tell you what lifestyle to use. No, they don't. The resources determine that. All that the technicians do is build a system that can utilize those resources for the benefit of all the people involved. It has to be global. If it's not global, if you have most of the resources and most of the building equipment and most of the automated machinery and most of the arable land and most of the drinking water, countries that do not have that will attempt to invade your country and take what they need. Every nation wants a piece of the pie. Keep that in mind. So to the degree that you try to live a sustainable life to yourself will not work, because other nations that lack material will invade you. In the rebuilding of cities throughout the world, you have to consider how far those cities are from resources. That means available materials, concrete, steel, reinforcement, etc. If the cities are near that source, then it becomes more efficient to design the cities as systems operations, meaning that the city itself must meet the needs of the people that live there. We announce on television what is available and what is not available at the time, and when it probably will be available. so the public has information of where to go to access whatever it is that they need. So people will have access to more things than they've ever had in a monetary system. More things and more opportunities will be available. All of the cities are designed to utilize a minimum amount of energy for maximum service. In that way, we conserve energy so that we can handle more people. There are people throughout the world that do not have access to high energy systems. We'll be able to provide more for human need if we use efficiency. Naturally, if we fail to do that, you can only take care of a limited amount of people. The resource-based economy has millions of slaves, but they're machines. And machines do repetitive, boring, and dangerous jobs. That's what the machines are for. They're not to put you out of work. If they can turn things out faster than you, we don't need you working. In fact, we don't want you working in an industrial plant. We want you to go back to school and study whatever you're interested in, whatever you think you'd like to study, whatever you feel you'd like to understand better. Unfortunately, money doesn't represent things in existence. If you set a value on every tree, every inch of arable land, all the water, and you printed money proportionate to the resources, so that the money represents resources, then it can have meaning. But today, that is not accomplished. Although they may tell you that demand will really bring about these things. No, demand doesn't bring about the things, available resources do. And if money doesn't represent available resources, it has no basis for social management. When you live in a false society that bases its wealth upon money, then that society itself will collapse eventually, not because I say so, because it's not based on physical reference. In a resource-based economy where production and automation can turn out more goods and services, there's no need to use money anymore. If you really wish to put an end to war, poverty, hunger, territorial disputes, you must utilize all the world's resources as a common heritage of all the world's people. Anything less than that will remain with the same problems that you've had continuously for centuries. If you don't declare all the Earth's resources as the common heritage of all the world's people and bring all the separate nations together in one unified system, there is no solution other than that. And this is why we recommend a resource-based economy.
Jacques continues to invent every day, to write, to work. He has a zest for life that keeps him going and keeps him working, and he's interested in things. He's interested in what happens out there and how this will play out and how it'll turn out, while very much wanting to introduce this direction to the world. So that's his prime focus, and he does that in every way he can by actually showing. It's not enough to just tell what the future will be like, but just to show what people are missing. He keeps coming up with new ideas, new inventions, new designs, improves what he has, represents them better, makes more models, makes more videos. He's relentless at trying to get these ideas out. I think he fears where society is now. It's not acceptable to him, but instead of just complaining, he wants to propose an alternative. Jacques spent a lot of time before studying people. He started studying how animals behave and how to change the behavior of animals or predict the behavior of animals. And it came to the conclusion that it's really the environment that changes behavior and enables us to behave the way we do. You know, in the past, people would say, you'd never be able to get to the moon, not in 1,000 years. And they'd look up the next day and they're going to the moon. You know, when I first met Jacques 25 years ago, and he would talk to some people about certain inventions, they'd say, you won't see that, not in 1,000 years. And 10 years later, they come out with it on the cover of Popular Science. I look at this as everything he's doing is to be as being the utmost in spirituality. Instead of looking for a better world later, after you die, it's really building the type of things that all religious teachings talk about here on earth. We don't have to wait till we die for that. We can confront our problems today and not wait for the Messiah to come with the white robe and change things, or not wait till we all go to heaven at a certain time, or those believers that go to heaven at a certain time. We can deal with the problems today. For instance, in religion, they put things on the will of God. If there's an accident, it's the will of God, and it stops you from thinking. It stops you from being innovative. It stops you from thinking about, well, how do we redesign the transportation system so we don't have those problems anymore? Besides the tours on scheduled Saturdays, Jacques is continuously creating and revising new designs in all areas of the social sequences. For every design and drawing that he keeps, he probably throws out about 10. He then selects from the sketches ones he wants to be rendered into 3D animations.
And this is a front view of the thing.
Andrew and Yulita are located in London, and they head up the Venus Project design team.
Sectors, to the rings, just to give you an idea of size.
It looks very good, Andrew.
It's getting there. It's getting there.
We've been working with Yulita and Andrew for about 2 years now. They take Jacques' sketches and turn it into a beautiful vision of what the future can be.
You have to take in the whole picture and ask, what is it that you want? What kind of world do you want? So, I have drawings of different cities. Those cities have an end goal. They're not just cities. The goal of those cities is to make things relevant to people that they respond to. There's no other way. Now, people that live in a city have many different reactions to the city. It's my home, my grandfather was born there, my favorite city. But they really don't understand what a city is, what it serves. Now, they use words like shelter. Home is a shelter. But when you wear a diving suit and you go underwater, that's a closed environment, shelter for underwater living. If a man goes out into space, he brings with him the air in the suit. And in that suit he has all type of equipment he may need on that mission. If you give him a book, a novel to take out into space, it's dead weight, doesn't serve anything. If you give him an emergency book of what to do when oxygen stops or something goes wrong, that's something. But a book about how Seminole Indians treat fish would have no use in space. Our society is loaded with how Seminole Indians treat fish. There's lots of superfluous information, superfluous to the needs of people. Must everything be scientific? If it is not, it's less valid. Is there a place for non-scientific? By non-scientific, do you mean speculative notions? Or scientific is, I don't know, let's try to find out. Does it mean you'll find out? Not necessarily. You'll find out if you have the appropriate needs. You can take flying lessons if you live in the city. You can study medicine, go back to school, concert halls. There are exhibits every week like a World's Fair. The city is enormously advantageous. Nothing I talked about was against anybody. I didn't want to kill anybody, hurt anybody, put anybody in jail. There are no prisons, no police, no armies, no navies in this system. Because people have access to whatever the hell they need. You can go to the watch center and check out a watch, any kind you like, free, without payment or obligation.
In the future, you would have so many new options that you would never get involved in a nothingness field. Nothingness means fashion. There'll be healthy clothing designed for people that will breathe while you walk and cool off when it's hot. It'll help the body maintain optimal temperature. Shoes will breathe as you walk. They will not be designed by stylists or people that drape fabric around in different directions. These are totally detractive. They have nothing to do with a sane society. A sane society will design clothing that's comfortable and maintain materials that serve more than just cover the body.
So in the future, no more opinions. You have information in this area? No, I don't. Good. Here's where you might get it, or here's how you might go about finding out. Yeah, it looks like the globe. That globe there makes all the decisions because it's connected. We have satellites around the Earth that project a hologram, a virtual image of the Earth. So you're looking at the real Earth in real time. So you walk over to the image screens and you talk. You say, how many planes are there in the air at this instant? The computer will hit a laser spot all over the world and tell you 7,320. Every plane in the air, every hurricane, all the conditions all over the Earth, plant diseases. No human can do that. So we don't need people in government. You need electronics in the field, production, distribution, weather, so we can come at home and find out anything we want to know without opinions based on folksy way. Now, somebody said to me, what if a guy wants to take more than what is allowable? First of all, they go to an orientation center first. It describes how the city works, where you can access food, where you can pick up information in the area. It's just like if you want to fly an airplane, they don't put you in an airplane. They put you in a unit and you move the controls first, just to get the feel of it. Then when they bring you over to an airplane, the first thing you check is the tires. And you check the air pressure, and you check the movement of those, and make sure they all work. And then you sit in that plane for a little while and get familiar with the instrument. You can't move normal people into this city and expect to have a decent world. You can't. Any more than you can become an engineer without going through a specialized environment called the university. The university is an environment that specializes in how to be an engineer, an architect, whatever. So we want to change the global environment and make a global university. All cities will be universities. An ocean liner is a totally enclosed system. It has medical, hospitals, emergency rooms, but it has no kitchens in the bedrooms. There's a dining area. And it's inefficient to put a kitchen in every bedroom on the ocean liner. Do you understand that? So they have areas set aside for that. They have a nurse or several nurses on the ocean liner. Well, what does a nurse do? A nurse can bandage, she can close in surgery, but there's no reason why the future will not have automated systems for doing that. They can invite a doctor from any area of the globe on the board that boat. They can invite him as a virtual image or as a symbol manipulator, and that doctor can study the condition without being there. So you have a totally different system. That's why I use the term total enclosure systems. Each building generates its own electricity. It provides for all human needs and even grows food in the building or prepares food. Today you have places where you have fast food, you have 15 cooks and waitresses and all that. In the future, you'll be able to extrude the food very rapidly with no people at all. You don't need people. You don't need waiters, cooks and all. What you need is the food handled the way the food is handled by people, only much faster. Remember, it takes a doctor time to diagnose. He's got to study the symbols and tell what the problem might be. And scanning by machine is very fast. So I can't tell you exactly what hospitals will look like or what the cities will look like, although we know that beds would be very similar, only they'll be more flexible. And not only that, the bed will have monitors built in, so that if there's any kind of emergency, the bed can stimulate you out of that emergency and call for help without you even knowing it. If you have palpitations or unusual physical condition while you're asleep, a staff would arrive. So when I say total enclosure, I mean methods for dealing with all problems that humans might have. Now, does that mean there won't be a kitchen in every home? There will be during the transition, until we realize, instead of having 5,000 homes with 5,000 sinks and 5,000 ovens and refrigerators, you have gigantic refrigerators and a food preparation system. Do you understand that? It will not be like it is today. So when people look at these cities that I drew up here, they picture conventional approaches. A bedroom, a kitchen, a dining room, a dining area, because you have people over for lunch. The same value systems we have today. So I would say that this is where the future is going. And the future design would depend on how far into the future and how far technology has gone. When they can read symbols and make diagnosis, when a machine can do drafting, instead of thousands of draftsmen, a machine can do drafting much faster than man, can scan those lines in. If you put in the specifications of what you want, if you want a hospital to house 1,000 people with the most economical structures, which have built-in heating and cooling systems, all that can be stored in information systems. And the building can probably be forthcoming in minutes and rather hours that it takes draftsmen to do it. And the amount of draftsmen and the amount of space allotted for things will not be the same. If you took an industrial area with movable walls, and if some manufacturing process needed, say, the production of 100 air cars a day, that space could be assembled. The walls can move to accommodate the production methods. If the production methods are faster, 2 years from now, the walls come together, the factory is smaller, and the production rate is higher. So whatever you have today, ovens, kitchens, all those things, will be smaller in the future, produce things much faster, and not occupy the same space. So when you say, how much space do you need for hospitals? It depends. If people eat nutritious food, do exercise, you don't have many hospitals. So I can't tell you exactly what the hospital space will be or how technical they will be. I can only say this. The future will occupy much less space for the same turnout. And that's the message. Now, if you try to design a city with 100 drafting tables in it, or 100 or 30 machines, that is with today's thinking. And the building will get, the zone that creates that will be smaller and have less people. Now, instead of having generalists, where the doctor is a generalist and he knows everything from neurology to other physical problems, it's much easier to have computers with that information. Not only do they scan you and record in symbolic logic what the condition is, it is then read. Instead of doctors, it's read by machine. very rapidly, and then the appropriate action can be taken by machine, if it's surgery or whatever else is required. So to sit down and design a surgical system based on today's values and today's methodology would be inappropriate for the future. So a city of that size will do 10 times the work that a city today of the same size does. That's why I can't give you an exact description of what hospitals will be like, only an overview in general. A ship is a total enclosure system. A passenger liner that has 1,000 passengers has hospital equipment, cooking, dining areas, sleeping areas, air conditioned, children's room, and nurses take care of children. It has everything that 1,000 passengers may need. Do you understand that? A ship is almost a total enclosure system. It doesn't generate its own energy. It uses machines, diesel engines, to generate electricity, to operate the generators. But in the future, the surface of the ship will supply the energy needed. The wave power and surrounding areas will supply that ship with the energy it needs rather than require input. Now, most of the buildings that I draw that you see there can be put in the cities of the future on the outer perimeter. You need not, you can use the same basic drawings that I have today, but trying to fill in the buildings as to what's in them, I'd rather not divulge that specific information. Now, I can go into specifics, but they would only serve temporarily. The method of delivery of people or moving people depends on the technology of the future. And it depends on how easy it is to move people. But if you have total enclosure systems, it means each system is self-operating, doesn't depend on central power, but they're all connected to the central computer and they're connected to all events in other cities. If the city system mechanisms fail, other mechanisms take over and notify the appropriate people or the appropriate machines to carry out a given task. You can't design the best television set. You can only design the best you can design with what we know up to now. 2 years from now, it'll be different. Does that make sense? The city that I design will be a straitjacket to the kids of the future. They'll design their own cities. But if you make a statue of Fresco and put it here, you hold them back. So there are no heroes, no great people in the future. Just people that make contributions. It is not from the bottom up or from the top down. It's based upon surveys, meaning if we have the resources, we can build a resource-based economy. If we don't have access to certain materials, people want to know how things are distributed. In other words, if we don't have enough to go around, who gets what? That's why we must overcome scarcity. To the degree that scarcity exists, you will have problems. You cannot overcome problems by legislation or consensus. You have to have the material to make a resource-based economy work. And until that occurs, you're going to have problems. If we can overcome shortages, then we can begin to think of ways of solving problems. If you cannot overcome shortages, you will have problems. So somebody once asked me, who decides who gets what? In a shortage system where you don't have enough resources to meet those needs, it will occur on the basis of prejudice, bigotry, and the habits pre-established prior to the Venus concepts. The Venus concept doesn't have a set of laws that exist, that you do this or you don't do that. If we don't overcome scarcity, we cannot operate the system efficiently. So the first thing that has to be done is groups of people or individuals have to work on problem solving. many problems, such as conflict resolution. If we learn to solve problems in an abundant system, we would have little conflict. If we don't have abundance, it will always result in problems. I believe that the Venus Project can arrive at the availability of services in the shortest possible time. Once that is accomplished, we can begin to move forward. Until we resolve the problem of shortages, we cannot move forward. There are many different things people ask. What if two people completely disagree and have different approaches to problems? We can try both systems, or 3 systems, or 10 systems to determine that which consumes less energy and is the most effective. If we try a system and it doesn't work, then we'll continue to work at it to see if we can find better ways of operating the system. It has nothing to do group feels they want, or what the group feels ought to be done. It's based on resources only. We do not make decisions, we arrive at them based on existing resources. There appears to be no real other way of doing things. It's like being in a lifeboat with limited water. Do you give everybody a glass of water, or do you give everybody water depending on their weight and moisture, evaporation of the body? In other words, how do you decide that? People tend to give each person an equal amount of water in scarcity. That does not make sense. If a person weighs 300 pounds and another person weighs 79 pounds, giving them equal amount of water does not equally distribute that water in the body. So totally different systems, meaning surveys and technical people who are qualified to arrive at decisions by using technology. Does everybody have equal opportunities in the Venus Project? No. There are different people with different backgrounds. The more experience you have in any particular field, you'll be called upon to advise. I'm talking about real experience, hands-on, working at something.
You cannot maintain laws with abundance. So when people say, well, what are the new laws in the Venus Project? Well, to the degree that we can solve problems, produce an abundance, there's hardly any need for laws. If we can raise children to behave in the most appropriate way under those conditions, you don't need laws.
Some people would want or need drugs. Would it be made available to them?
Yes, it would.
It would?
Yes.
Okay.
You will, if you, see, we show people smoking cigarettes, talking, but then we show the human lung, real film, and it stretches. If you smoke a long time, it tears, and then cancer cells form. Then the guy chokes, he can't breathe. We show a guy dying, real, in a hospital, try to breathe. He's been smoking for 20 years. We don't say stop smoking. We show films of the results of a certain viewpoint. You understand? If you don't get it, you can still smoke if you want to. Okay. We don't order you not to smoke. If you try to do that, it'll go underground. People will smoke in the cellar. If you try to ban religion, it'll go underground. Don't ban anything.
I believe that people should not be divided. The youngsters, the adolescents, and finally the mature young adults, and then the older folks are all divided people. When you get to be 65, you don't want to travel on an ocean liner with old folks. How come we put up these buildings for the old folks? We think that people ought to live wherever the hell they want to live. That cities must be designed so we have an integrated, intelligent society. Einstein, when he was 65, 70 years old, he would talk to youngsters. He kept reading. He kept up with ideas. Why must societies be divided into different groups?
All single professions will disappear in the future. I have no question about it. You have to become so general. Our problems are not political, they're technical. Everything that you have,
Your washing machines, your electric light, your automobiles, your airplanes are all technical. Without those things, you'd be pulling boats. Slavery. You'd be whipped and beaten into slavery. So technology is on the backs of probably no more than 20 people, gave us everything. The Edisons, Louis Pasteur. If it wasn't him, we'd all be dead. So the real things that you have that work for you are technical. What the Venus Project proposes is a society where everyone will live better than the wealthiest people today. Everyone. Now, is that possible? Let me give you an example. The middle-class American today, or the middle-class person in any advanced society, lives better than kings. They have air conditioning in their car, they have communications in their car, telephones, they fly and fly. Even the Arabs used to think of a magic carpet. The guy sat on the couch and they flew around, they thought that was fantastic. But they never told you when it rained, the carpet got soaked, and everybody got wet, or you had to go to the washroom. What did you do in the magic carpet? Now you have airplanes with television in the airplanes. Even the magic carpet was considered, oh, that's too far out. Nothing's too far out. Anything a person can conceive of can be built. Now, in a non-monetary based society, a resource-based society, people have access to anything that they need, somewhat like the public library. They can go down and access a camera or a bicycle or a wristwatch. Anything that they need is available without a price tag. That would mean we must achieve a level of production that's so high that scarcity no longer exists. Many people wonder what would drive people if they have access to all their needs. What would happen to incentive? What will motivate people? Or something gain. What's the gain? Although the gain is that materials are available, what will motivate them on to do better than what they have? Need. We will always lack. And the fact that we will always lack, meaning that we cannot achieve perfection, we cannot achieve truly dynamic equilibrium, we will always be in some form of disequilibrium. With the elimination of scarcity, the essential incentives change toward problem solving in general. Well, in a resource-based economy, people are brought up to understand how they relate to their immediate environment, and that their relationship to the environment is not the whole truth. It's as far as we know up to now. You're brought up to date and you're told that as we seek more and more information, we will know more about a given subject. Someone asked me, would everybody be alike in your society? Yes, in certain areas. They will love the earth and take care of it, stick their hands out when they meet another person from a different culture and say, your values are different than mine, I'd like to learn more about your way of thinking. They will be the same in that way. They will be open to new ideas, learn to listen to new ideas, ask relevant questions about ideas. Yes, in those areas they will be alike. A resource-based economy is all-inclusive. That means transportation, city design, education, the methods of education, and the new value system. If you don't include everything, if you leave out any of those factors, you'll have a problem. It includes agriculture, feeding people, distribution of goods and services. It includes the raising of children, the school systems, the subject matter taught, the language used. We also will develop a newer language that has closer areas of agreement, which are not subject to interpretation. The Venus Project describes the process level of social operations. Any deviation from that system will cause problems. The system has been worked on for 75 years, and we've got it down pat. The resource-based economy is a method of operating society in the most economical and efficient way to meet the needs of all the world's people. During the transition, it will be highly participatory. Different people in different professions will be able to serve the well-being of everyone else. It is not a technical elitism. It includes all aspects of social living. I didn't want you to think that it's just city design. It's a value system, the way we think, how we arrive at these conclusions. In other words, you will see every inch of the way as proposed by the Venus Project. If you deviate from those systems, it may not be a tried system or proven system. The Venus Project is based upon a lot of research and proven methods of social change. There are no values except the values that preserve nature, man, and his relationship to his fellow man and nature. This is the only laws I know of. If we don't take care of the forest, we let them burn and die, we will suffer. If we pollute the oceans, we will suffer. Those are things I accept. If people do not understand the Venus Project, it isn't that fresco lights dictate the ways. I'd like to understand what they have to offer to alter society. I'm not interested in 3 views to an airplane unless I know what that plane is for. What has to be done is people should investigate the educational system of the Venus Project, what it offers. Then it must then look into the environmental aspects of the Venus Project, how we intend to support and restore the damaged environment. Then what different types of vehicles would be used for transportation, how we solve the transportation problem. If they find shortcomings in it, say, present your recommendations. But don't say, I don't like that system. Present your recommendations or alternatives.
We have designs, as I said, for a new city where people could come from all over the world and see. It'd be kind of a transitional city because you can't superimpose a resource-based economy within the monetary system. So it'd be a transition, and people would come and see how the city works and see how efficient it would be, and then go back and build one in their country. And it would kind of grow this way through evolution, not revolution. But before things break down in this culture, we'd like to have a lot more information out there so people know what to work toward. And many of them won't be interested until, as Jacques mentioned, they lose their jobs, they lose confidence in their elected leaders, and they lose their homes and their cars. Then they'll be looking for something else. But we'd like to have the information out there so they know a different direction to work toward.
We have a lot of architects now joining the organization, and they're working on previews of the city's construction techniques, but it's a little early for that. The first thing is to convince people that they want that. And then if they say, we're ready to go, we collected 50 million for the first city. We'll build it any place, China, France, England, but it will be owned by the Venus Project, so we get people from all over the world to come and look at it and say, we'd like to live that way.
Do you feel that there should be a political movement associated with the Venus Project?
Not a political movement, an educational movement.
Very good, yes.
Tell people what it is that's needed, how much arable land to support so many people, and transportation that would be safe. An educational project that shows how to utilize our existing resources in a more equitable way for all people.
And it's too bad even the activists today who want to see change, some of them, they don't know where the problems lie. They try and make this system more ethical and just, but never consider that it's a system that produces that aberrant behavior.
Who's going to pay for all this?
Where's the money coming from? If you took all of the gold and all of the wealth of this country, all of the certificates of debt and all of the land ownership, all of the diamonds and rings, and dumped it off the coast of Japan, as long as you didn't touch the American way of thinking, our technology, and our resources, we would not be impoverished at all. America's wealth is not its gold, is not its banking institutions. These are false institutions that the entire money-structured and materialistic-oriented society is a false society. 10 or 15 years from now, our society will go down in history as the lowest development in man. We have the brains, the know-how, the technology, and the feasibility to build an entirely new civilization.
You believe that we teach competition, that it's not bred into someone?
Competition is dangerous, socially offensive, considered right and normal, because you are brought up to that value system. What kind of competition did Jesus have? What kind of competition is there in your body? Suppose your brain said, I'm the most important organ, and the liver said, I am, and I want to go a free enterprise system. You'd rot away in a month if every organ of your body went out for itself. You cannot be a conventional architect, a conventional engineer, work for the telephone company or any other of the old establishment and come up with an idea that is a radical innovation. The space program takes new thinking to save our country, to save our land, to save our environment, to save our youth, our stupidity, our conflict. We've got to reorganize our way of thinking and reconsider our social aims.
I don't know what the future will be, but I can say it's probably we'll kill each other. But I can't live with that, so I speak up. I don't say the future will be this. And people say, how long from now do you see the scientific world? I don't know. That's not up to me. I can't say that Fresco tells the truth. I can only say that Fresco's world is based upon survey related to man and his relationship to the environment. That's what I mean by mechanistic. It isn't that I want to direct the whole thing. I haven't gotten assistance from others on how to put up buildings faster that were that new. So I had to innovate all this shit because I didn't get anything from others. Academia is not the Venus Project, nor is it science as it's used today. They wouldn't work on bombers if they were part of the Venus Project. They wouldn't work on weapons. They wouldn't be patriotic.
But you look at some of your designs, some of your visions for the future, and people say, yeah, look, it's like you might have seen in Popular Mechanics in the 50s. You know, this is what's going to be like in 1999.
No, it's nothing like that. Hollywood shows you spaceships and people using laser weapons. They take the same cowboys and Indians and put them in spaceships. That is not the future. That's man's concept of this limited society that doesn't teach you how to think and look ahead. They teach you how to be a cameraman, auto mechanic, chemist, or a structural engineer. They don't give you an overview of society. When people say, are you trying to build a perfect society? I have no notions of a perfect society. I don't know what that means. I know we can do much better than what we've got. I'm no utopian. I'm not a humanist who would like to see everybody living in warmth and harmony. I know that if we don't live that way, we'll kill each other and destroy the earth.
We must put our mind to this as we do to put a man on the moon. We must put our mind to the social problem. I am not your enemy. I am not trying to destroy things. I do not believe in revolution.
Are you betting that people will not declare war on each other so that you can get at building all of this?
Well, we don't have much choice. We're going to destroy each other, or we're going to make it.
Social engineer, industrial designer and inventor, PhD in human factors engineering, and has worked on many things from anti-icing systems to prefabricated aluminum houses, designed systems for noiseless and pollution-free aircraft, wrote the book Looking Forward. He has lectured at the Department of Sociology in Princeton on sociology of the future, guest at the College Editors Environmental Conference in Washington, lectured at Queens College, New York, University of South Florida, University of California, designed various items ranging from drafting instruments to X-ray units. And so, you know, don't just dismiss this. If he says it's possible, it's possible.
Time is running out. I don't know if I can get the people on this world cruise. I'm doing my darndest to get this information out there. I need your help.
We must remember that this is a much better system than the current one, not some utopia, because such a thing doesn't exist. Technology and discoveries are constantly moving, so you cannot have the best technology and the best system. It's a continuous process of progression. For such a society, you need technology that will free man from any unwanted work, will produce plenty of goods and services, and will lead automation to a new dimension. A society in which everyone shares and no one owns anything. A society in which human beings use technology as extensions of themselves. A highly educated society. A society where information and technology will be accessible to all without any servitude. A society where no one will be in charge because it will not be needed. A society without reasons for conflict. A society where you will feel like a human being and the rest, technology, information, comfort, etc., will only be an extension of you.
Come in.
This is so much better. It's a lot like home.
Well, Prot, I was hoping you'd tell me more about home.
Well, what would you like to know?
Well, do you have a family on K-Pax?
It doesn't work on K-Pax the same way it works here, Mark. On K-Pax, we don't have families in the way that you think of them. In fact, family would be a non sequitur on our planet, as it would on most others.
In other words, you never knew your parents.
On K-Pax, children are not raised by their biological parents, Mark, but by everyone. They circulate among us, learning from one and then another.
Do you have a child?
No.
Do you have a wife waiting back for you on K-Pax?
Mark. You are not really listening to what I'm saying to you, are you? We do not have marriage on K-Pax. There are no wives. There are no husbands. There are no families.
I see. So, what about societal structure? Government?
No, there's no need for one.
Well, you have no laws?
No laws, no lawyers.
How do you know right from wrong?
Every being in the universe knows right from wrong, Mark.
But what if someone did do something wrong, committed murder or a rape, how would you punish them?
Let me tell you something, Mark. You humans, most of you, subscribe to this policy of an eye for an eye, a life for a life, which is known throughout the universe for its stupidity. Even your Buddha and your Christ had quite a different vision, but nobody's paid much attention to them, not even the Buddhists or the Christians. You humans, sometimes it's hard to imagine how you've made it this far.